hay algunas cosas complicadas. O la volteamos, ¿no?
Comentarios. Les recuerdo que
Buenos días, los alumnos. Voy a presentar a la doctora asociada de la Universidad en Alemania. La doctora Harima recibió su licenciatura en Administración de Empresas en la Universidad de Kobe, en Japón, y su maestría en Administración en la Universidad de Mannheim, en Alemania. También estudió durante un año como intercambio con el summa cum laude a su profesor George Fry. Su investigación se centra en el espíritu empresarial transnacional, aceleradores de empresas, espíritu empresarial en los mercados emergentes. Ha realizado sus proyectos de investigación en diversos países como Filipinas, Chile, Argentina, Namibia, Sudáfrica, Tayikistán y Alemania. Sus temas de investigación se centran en el potencial empresarial de los emprendedores refugiados en Europa, centros de puesta en marcha para emprendedores refugiados en Europa, emprendedores migrantes transnacionales en tiempos de la pandemia del COVID-19, ecosistemas empresariales en mercados emergentes como China, Namibia, ecosistemas emprendedores en campos de refugiados en África, incorporación del espíritu empresarial de los estudiantes de Alemania y muchos otros proyectos. Así tenemos el gusto de escuchar hoy a la doctora Aki Harima, quien presentará su propuesta Business Models Innovation in Response to the COVID-19 Pandemic. So, welcome, Dr. Harima. It's a pleasure to see you here, and our students are listening. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the introduction. Can you see the screen? Yeah. So I hope that you can see the screen, and if not, then please raise your hand and let us know. My name is Aki Harima, and it's a great pleasure to hold a speech on business model innovation in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in front of you. So thank you so much for Professor Dr. Blanca Garcia, who invited me to the speech. And I'm equally excited to hold this speech, especially for the students at the University Universidad Autónoma de Estado de Hidalgo, because I spent some time in Pachuca at TU University as a guest lecturer. I was invited also by Professor Blanca Garcia in 2016 and 17, where I spent really excellent and unforgettable time with students, Mexican students who are really creative, enthusiastic about the topic, and I really enjoy the food as well. So it was really great pleasure. During the COVID pandemic time, I couldn't manage to visit Mexico anymore, but in this way I can virtually connect it to you. So it's a great pleasure to have this opportunity as well. So thank you very much as well. So I understood, although my Spanish linguistic capacity is limited, I understood that Blanca already introduced me quite in detail. So I skipped my academic backgrounds, but maybe I will explain a little bit more about the research fields before as a kind of self-introduction. So my research is entrepreneurship in a global context, especially I focus on migration and entrepreneurship. And especially since 2015, where Germany and Europe has started receiving many refugees. Now my research primarily focus on the entrepreneurial potential as well as their activities as an entrepreneurs of refugees, especially from Iraq, Syria, so those who came to Germany since 2015. Now we're receiving Ukrainian refugees, so it will be also another research topic as well. And in addition to that, regional entrepreneur ecosystems are something about the interplay between different stakeholders, so not only about entrepreneurs, but also policymakers plays a role in supporting entrepreneurs, or other universities, for instance, create the entrepreneurial talent. So my research deals with interplay between these different stakeholders, how they create regional dynamics to support startups. And in this context, I also investigate how business incubators and accelerators can be governed to offer effective support for entrepreneurs. And then my last research field is probably most relevant to you, which is student entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship education. And I'm pretty much passionate about this topic because I think and I believe the students are unique entrepreneurs, and they can identify the opportunities that those who are not students cannot identify. So they are more innovative often, they are more risk-taking, they can see the opportunities from totally different perspectives. So I want to understand the entrepreneurs, students as unique entrepreneurial agents, and how entrepreneurship education can support their capabilities. So these are kind of 4 research fields, and right, so I have some other international experiences, but I heard that Blanca already explained that, so I skipped that point. And before I move to the business model innovation part, I would like to briefly introduce the University of Bremen, because there is an official partnership between our university and your university. And have you heard of Bremen? Have you heard of our university? Probably some of you have heard of Bremen because of the football or soccer, but Bremen has much more to offer for those who visit the city. So this is something that I would like to briefly explain. So this is our university, and it's located in a technology park in a green area, as you can see in the picture. And it was founded in 1971. And with that, we are one of the youngest public universities in Germany. Despite the short history, we won one of the German Excellent Initiatives, which means that we belong to one of the 11 best universities in Germany in research. And also we are known for international university. And you can see some pictures that give you impression of the city of Bremen. And you might realize that we have here 7 pictures, and 2 of which are ships. So it kind of demonstrates how international the city is. And this is because of the history of Bremen. Bremen was one of the most successful Hanseatic cities. That means that those cities in the northern part of Germany that became successful economically through foreign trade. So that is kind of matching to the theme of your the Congress that you're attending. And because of these traditions, because the Bremen has interacted with other countries traditionally in the last 100 years, the city is pretty much open-minded, tolerant with the diversity, and it's pretty much welcoming international people. And finally, it's a brief overview of our university. So the University of Bremen has basically all the faculties except medical faculty. So we don't have the medical faculty. There's another institution in the state that specializes in this field. But other than that, we have all the faculties, and I'm located in a faculty 7, Business Studies and Economics, where your university and our university has an official partnership. And in the last few years, especially before the COVID time, we have received constantly several Mexican students from Pachuca, and we are always very happy to have you. So here I would like to also encourage you to consider coming to Bremen as an exchange student. But I think that's enough for our university and my background. And now I would like to start with the core topic of today and the aims and agenda of this presentation today. So the topic is business model innovation in times of the pandemic. And first, I would like to briefly show you the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the world economy and entrepreneurs worldwide. And then I will show you business model innovation as the potential key to become winners in the pandemic time. The pandemic offers both threats and opportunities, and there are entrepreneurs, there are businesses that become successful through the pandemic, while many others actually suffer from the pandemic. And here is the topic is business model innovation can be the key to make you winners in the pandemic time. And then I would like to focus on a particular type of entrepreneurs, which is transnational entrepreneurs. I will explain that more in detail later, but this particular type of entrepreneurs often engage in foreign trades, and they are mostly affected by the pandemic. And then I will show you some extracted research results of my study about entrepreneurial response of transnational entrepreneurs to the pandemic. And then finally, to wrap up the presentation, I will show you 4 key lessons. So first, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we actually all know part of it, and because we have experienced the pandemic by ourselves. But it's always good to understand the characteristic of the COVID-19 pandemic more objectively, because we have experienced different type of crisis at the national level, at the personal level, at the company level. But how can we understand the COVID-19 pandemic in as a distinctive crisis? Well, it's a global economic recession and uncertainty. It's different. Each country face a crisis at the national level. But the COVID-19 pandemic affects all the economies in the world. And in that scale, we have nearly have no experience with a crisis on that scale. And it suddenly and drastically changed your behavior as consumers, right? So you do not go out easily, you do not go to the parties. Maybe you start going now, but at the beginning of the pandemic, you didn't go to parties, you didn't go shopping, and you suddenly changed your behaviors in totally. That means that customers have totally different demands during the pandemic time. And it caused a global health crisis. All the hospitals have a certain capacity, but now, like, the people who are rushing to the hospital, they do not have capacities. And some medical hospital system of the countries are broken down. And also what we observed was particularly at the beginning of the COVID pandemic time was a collapse of international value chain and limited cross-border mobility. It was totally easy for us to cross country borders. You could go anywhere before, but especially at the beginning of the pandemic time, it was very difficult because some countries are closed down. That's, for instance, my home country, Japan. opened up the country borders for foreign tourists just 2 weeks ago. And before that, more than like nearly 2 years, the country was closed towards foreign tourists. And also because of the delay in productions or the border issues, international value chain is now totally broken. And another thing is social distance on the local level. So it's not just about like how you interact with the society as a whole, but even with your best friends and with your family, you have totally different distance. You do not hug anymore with anyone. And like, I'm not sure how is it in Mexico, but in Europe, it's quite common to do the fist bump instead of hugging or handshaking. So it's really like affecting the social distance on the local level. But one thing that is different from the previous pandemic. So for instance, early 20th century, Europe has experienced the pandemic, which is called Spanish flu, which was then spread to the rest of the countries. At that time, there was no digital technology. That means that if you're isolated, if there is a lockdown, then there was no way to connect yourself with the others. Now we have a digital technology. We can be still connected to the others. We can still have communication with others. So that makes also the COVID-19 pandemic different from other type of crisis in the history. And what we also should be aware is it's not just few years of the effect, but it will be a long-lasting effect and fundamental change at the individual cognitive level, community level, national level, and global level. Now we look at the COVID-19 and entrepreneurs or small medium enterprises. And I would like to focus on the entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs and startups are heavily impacted by crisis period because of their smallness, because of